Let's say this is all the money I have, $50,000. Maybe it took me 3 years to save it, maybe 5. Maybe I got a business, or I got a bonus at work, or maybe I sold something, or maybe I inherited this money. It doesn't really matter. The point is, this is my money, and I want to use this money to build wealth in real estate. So what do? Well, I'll tell you what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't take this entire $50,000 and go out and buy as much real estate as possible. And I definitely wouldn't take $45,000 and put it on one house just because the bank said I qualified for it. Because if this is all the investment capital I have, my first job is not to spend it. My first job is to protect it and then use it to control as much real estate as humanly possible. There's a big difference. So if I woke up tomorrow with no properties, no portfolio, and all I had access to was $50,000, here's exactly what I would do. Now, most people come to me and they say, Jamel, look, I got $50,000. What can I buy? To me, I wouldn't ask that. What I would be asking instead is, what can my $50,000 control? That's a completely different question. Because one of the things I learned after being in the real estate industry for over 20 years at this point is you don't build wealth by buying properties with your own money. You build wealth by using your money to control as much real estate as possible. Let me make this simple. Say you find a rental property for $200,000. Now you can look at this rental property and say, I don't have $200,000. Of course you don't. You don't need $200,000. That's what financing is for. Your money has a different job. It might need to cover the down payment, maybe the closing costs, maybe some repairs, and most importantly, reserves. So the question is not whether the $50,000 can buy me a house. The question is, can $50,000 put me in control of the right house without leaving me broke afterwards? That's the game I'm playing. So if I had $50,000 today, what I would do is start with a simple single family rental. And depending on the market, I would start with a lower valuation, somewhere between $150,000 price point to $225,000. Now, don't get hung up on that number because your market may be completely different. A $200,000 house in North Carolina is not the same as a $200,000 property in California, if you can find one. What matters here is the principle. I'm looking for a property where the income makes sense compared to the price. And in that price point, I'm sticking to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Nothing crazy. Nothing that needs me to be a hero unless the numbers justify it. Something I can rent to a normal working family in an area where people actually want to live. Access to schools, jobs, shopping, and transportation. I'm not trying to predict the next hot neighborhood. I'm simply trying to buy something that makes sense today. Now let's build this out with real numbers because I want you to see exactly how this works. And keep in mind, this is the deal I'm going to reference throughout the entire video. Now let's say that the purchase price of this property is $175,000. Now after doing my research, I find that I can rent this place for $1,850. And structuring the financing, my total cash into this property, meaning the down payment, closing costs, and the minor work it needs, is $25,000. And like I said before, don't get hung up on the exact details of the financing here. Now your loan on this property is going to depend on your credit, the property, your income, and the strategy as well. And what I want you to pay attention to is what happens to my $50,000. So I started off with $50,000. Now I control $175,000 worth of real estate. And I still have roughly $25,000 available. That $25,000 is not just sitting there doing nothing. It's protecting me. If we have a vacancy, I got money for it. If I got to repair something, I got money for that. If I need to pay out an insurance deductible, I got money for that as well. But what if another opportunity comes along? Well, guess what? I've got options. That's a completely different position than owning a rental and only having $600 in your checking account. And I want to be very clear. I'm not saying buy a $175,000 house with $25,000 as a formula. The property still has to make financial sense. So what I'm looking at is rent, taxes, insurance, vacancy, maintenance, management, financing, CapEx, everything. Real cash flow, not spreadsheet cash flow. For example, I've seen people say my mortgage is $1,200, the rent is $1,800, so my cash flow is $600. No, it's not, because the roof don't care about your spreadsheet. And this might be the most important part of this whole video. Just because I can close on a property doesn't mean I should. When you finally find a property you like, emotions get involved. You spent weeks, maybe even months looking for it. You negotiated, you talked to the lender. Everybody tells you congratulations. Now you're emotionally committed to closing the deal. And that's dangerous because I'm not asking if I can close. What I'm asking is, what does my financial position look like the day after I close? That's the number I care about. If the answer is I only have $1,800 left, I'm probably not going to buy the property. Not with my last $50,000. On our $175,000 deal, the answer is I still have $25,000. Now I'm in a financial position I like, but that still doesn't mean I'm going to buy it. The property itself has to work. Now, before I buy, I try to intentionally break the deal. And I believe every investor should do this. For example, what if the rent is $100 lower than you expected? What if the property sits vacant for a month? What if the insurance goes up? What if I need to spend $5,000 more on repairs than I planned? What if the HVAC goes out next summer? After asking all of these questions, does the deal survive? If one piece of bad news destroys the investment, then I don't have a good deal. And especially with my first $50,000, I don't want a fragile deal. I want room to be wrong because you're going to be wrong sometimes. I've been doing this for over 20 years and I still get things wrong. The difference is after enough time doing this, you start to structure deals so even if you're a little wrong, it's not going to kill you. Now, once I close this deal, I still got that $25,000 available. That don't mean I'm running out the next morning and buying another property. What I'm going to focus on is stabilizing the property first. I'm going to make sure I get in the right tenant and confirm that my numbers were right. I'm going to build some more cash reserves and I'm going to learn. Because your first property is going to teach you things that YouTube is not going to teach you, including this one. There's a difference between understanding something intellectually and having a tenant call you about it. But once the property is stable, then I look for property number 2. And at that point, something changed because I'm not the person with $50,000 trying to become a real estate investor anymore. I'm a real estate investor. I have the asset. I have rental income coming in. I got some equity. I got some experience at that point, and I still have some capital. Now, the strategy I use for property number 1 might not be the same strategy I use for property number 2. Maybe the first is conventional. Maybe the second is seller finance or DSCR. Maybe I use private money or a refinance play. The point is, I'm not loyal to a financing strategy. I'm loyal to good deals. And that's a mistake I see a lot. People become burr investors or creative finance investors like it's some type of identity. I want you to understand something. Those are just tools. Use the tool that fits your deal. If your credit and your income is strong, use financing that rewards that. The goal is not to make real estate harder than it needs to be. The end goal is to simply build wealth. Now, here's a few things I would avoid. I would not dump the entire $50,000 into one property. I would not buy something because somebody told me the area is about to blow up. I would not chase appreciation and ignore the cash flow. I also wouldn't take on a massive rehab on my first deal without experienced people around me. And quit my day job. If I got a good job, I'm trying to protect it. My income is an asset. My credit is an asset. That provides me with borrowing ability. And my borrowing ability is an asset as well. I see too many people get into real estate and they want to quit their day job right away. Why? That paycheck might be the very thing helping you qualify for financing. Let your career help finance the assets that'll eventually give you the freedom. You don't have to blow up your life to become a real estate investor. Now, some of you watching this don't have $50,000 yet, and that's fine. The principle is the same whether you're starting with $10,000 or $100,000. Use what you have without putting yourself in a weak financial position. Your path might mean saving a little longer. Maybe you got to improve your credit. Maybe you have to house hack on your first deal. Or maybe you got to build capital through wholesaling first. I can't do this exact deal today. It's not the same as I can't invest in real estate. And if you do have the money, maybe you have a decent income, you got some savings, maybe your credit is solid and you've been getting started for the last 3 years. At some point, you got to stop preparing to become an investor and actually make an investment. But you want to be careful not to be reckless. Once you understand the numbers and you have reserves and you have finance and you found a good deal, more information stops reducing your risk. All it does is delay decision making. And I'm going to tell you this, that's an expensive habit because 5 years disappears fast. Now, remember where we started, $50,000. If all I did was put this money into one property, I haven't created a system. But if I use part of it to acquire the first asset, keep some reserves to the side, stabilize the property, then use my income, my credit, and my cash flow and remaining capital to acquire the next one, something starts happening. And that's exactly what I'm trying to create. Not one rental property. I'm trying to create a machine, a system where the assets help me to acquire more assets. And eventually, the question is not, what should I do with my $50,000? It becomes, how do I deploy the capital my portfolio is producing? That's a very different financial life. So your first $50,000 is not valuable because of what you can buy with it. It's valuable because of what it can start. That's why I wouldn't rush to spend it. I will protect it and leverage it intelligently. I will buy something I understand. I will keep cash reserves and ultimately let the property prove itself. Then do it again and again and again. That's how I would personally turn $50,000 into something much bigger over time. Not through one home run deal, but through a series of good decisions. And here's where it gets harder in the real world. It's easy to sit here and say, find the right property, run the numbers, get financing, structure the deal. It's different when you're looking at an actual property with an actual seller and an actual lender, and your $50,000 is on the line. That's where people freeze. Am I paying too much? Did I estimate the repairs correctly? Should I use this loan or that loan? Is this enough cash flow? Am I missing something? And that's exactly why I built my coaching programs. We work with investors on the actual decisions, the properties, the numbers, the financing, the strategy, the offer, the next move. And if you're serious about building a real estate portfolio and you want some help, there's a link in the description box below. But whether you work with me or not, don't measure your progress by how much money you put into real estate. Measure it by the quality of the asset you're acquiring and the financial position you're going to be in after you acquire them. Because let's say we agree, you don't want to dump all your cash into one property. How do you actually buy real estate without tying up all your money? Well, there's several ways to do it. And some of them are probably available for you right now and you don't even know it. That's what I'm breaking down next. And if you're serious about building wealth in real estate, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.